It seemed that the main and most difficult part of the investigation is over. Most of the criminal group has already been detained, the raiders testify, the evidence base is growing. It remained only to find and arrest the mayor's son, who in addition to robbery and suspected in the murder of a baseball player, but at that moment, none of the detectives could not think how the hunt for Dexter Drake. After his involvement in the robberies was established, his family was questioned, but Drake Sr. adamantly refused to believe the accusations. "This is not how I raised my son to be a gangster," the mayor resented. Detectives immediately realized, even convinced of his son's guilt, the father will never give him up, so the house was placed under surveillance. The people Dex was most in contact with, his older sister and the girl he was dating, were also monitored. Days passed, weeks passed, and then one day, the detectives got the long-awaited message. It seemed Dexter had returned to Hanford and was on his way home. Detectives immediately went to detention. Detectives several hours sat in ambush, and Dexter still did not appear at his father. Time passed. The detectives realized, missed the criminal cannot, and decided to change the place of observation. And it soon became clear they were not mistaken. They drove up to his girlfriend's house. What happened next could have been mistaken for a feature film. Dexter saw the detectives, pulled out a gun, shot them, and ran. Escaping from the police, he disappeared again. The local police threw all the forces of the local police to search for him. Detectives regularly met with agents in the hope of getting information about his whereabouts. And finally, the swift efforts yielded results. His car was found, and it was put under surveillance. To the operation to apprehend a particularly dangerous criminal were involved almost all employees of the state of California, because they already realized that in a good surrender, armed criminal does not intend. Detectives managed to block his car. Negotiations began, but after a minute, it became clear that Dexter is so obsessed with the thirst for revenge that he is ready to forget not only about his own safety, but also about the lives of people close to him. Negotiations lasted more than 2 hours, but nothing led to nothing. The criminal realized the hopelessness of the situation and shot himself. After Dexter's suicide, his accomplices still silent. From fear spoke. From their testimony, detectives learned they were not mistaken that the murder of baseball player Kane Kamen was the work of Dexter. That evening, Kane Kamen habitually went into the bar, looked around, noticed a group of young guys. One of them, Micah, he knew the boy had practically grown up before his eyes. Kane approached the company at the moment when Dexter was outlining his plan of attack on Morgan's house. The baseball player accidentally heard a fragment of a phrase. Dexter didn't like it. He didn't need witnesses. Good to get rid of such a nuisance as an athlete drug addict was not difficult. He generously treated the famous baseball player and then volunteered to walk him home. But on the way, he turned and led Kane to the river, where he beat him to death. Dex was most afraid of being accused of murder, so he went on the run because he had enough money for a beautiful life away from home. Members of the gang, Dexter told, only after the robbery of the family Shaw looted money was so much that they shared them in bags. The victims of the raiders were wealthy acquaintances of Drake Sr. Most of the loot bandits flushed in casinos and clubs. Part of the stolen jewelry was returned to their rightful owners after the gang was disarmed. Dexter's associates, who paid with their lives for an irrepressible passion for luxury and power, received from 7 to 14 years in prison.